This is Dad's Old Truck, Dad's Old Truck, Volume 2, Chapter 1, Part B. This is a continuation of the pie supper that I started before I had so much trouble with the storm that went through and telephone calls. So we're going to pick up where I left off. I'll read that entire paragraph again. It said, that was almost as much as we would have been given at our homes for Christmas. I was able to get a Paladin pistol and holster, business card, and a rifle and a hat. We made our choices in early November. That made it so hard to wait for Christmas. The pie suppers were a tradition that were held in many of the smaller schools in Oklahoma. The function of the pie supper was to raise money for whatever purpose was needed at that time. I attended a school that held a pie supper in October to fix some playground equipment for the children. However, this pie supper here was solely to raise money for the children to have at Christmas at school. I still think it was a wonderful tradition that should not have gone by the wayside. The way a pie supper works was to have everyone associated with the school in any way make a pie for an auction at the event. Most of the time, the older girls in school, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, uh, who had begun to notice the boys, also baked pies. That was usually done by their mother's help or with their mother's help or by their mothers solely. The idea was that the man or the boy that was the top bidder won. He was to be honored with the opportunity to eat the first piece of pie with whomever took credit for baking the pie. The reason that the pie suppers work so well in small communities is because everyone knows everyone else. There usually is not a problem with jealousy or anger against the person who bought the pie. It was all done in fun. My big sister Betty was a sixth grader at this pie supper. Mom had baked a raisin pie for Betty to present at the pie supper. Mom also baked an apple pie, which she presented at the event. So our family brought two pies to the supper. The pie supper began at 7 in the evening and lasted until the last pie had been cut, usually a couple of hours. As the pie suppers began, the first pies were those that were presented by the young girls, like my sister Betty. This was done so that the boys that wanted to flirt with certain girls would have their choices of whom they wanted to eat with. The husbands or fathers would run up the prices on the pies just a little bit to help raise money for the presents. Our auctioneer was Mrs. Green's husband, and his wife told him secrets. So he knew which boys liked which girls. That made for a lot of fun at the auction. He would start the bidding off at 10 cents to give the boys a hard time, as maybe one or two of the men in the audience would bid against the boys, saying, I want to have the pie with that girl. She's so pretty, or something like that. The young boys would bid all the money they had when they ran out of when they ran out, they started asking their parents for money. The bidding would usually stop around there. It usually was fun to watch those young boys get so excited about eating a piece of pie with a girl they thought was pretty. When Betty's pie came up for bidding, an older man began to bid bid against a younger boy, and when it got to $1.25, the boy quit bidding, and the older gent bid $1.30 and won the pie. He also won the right to eat the first piece with Betty. At that point, the older gent yelled across the room, "I will give you a dime if you want want to bid again." Pardon me. But the boy was too embarrassed and said nothing. So my big sister had to eat the first piece of her pie with an older gentleman, probably 30 years old. But old from her perspective, I'm sure as the gentleman came forward to pick up the pie, Betty asked Dad if she had to go with him. She began to cry because Dad said to go and have the first piece of pie with him. That's how it is done, Dad said. You can come back as soon as you have a piece of pie. The whole crowd got a big kick out of the incident, and the laughter event, the laughter even embarrassed the boys, the boy who bid more. There was a great, there was great fun and teasing went on through the whole time of the event. Everyone had a good laugh. Betty didn't think it was funny when that happened. Most of the time, the husbands bought their wives pies. The wives would elbow their husbands in the side if it looked like somebody else might win their pie. If that happened, they would have to eat the first piece of pie with the highest bidder. This also caused laughter in the audience. The prettiest wives had their pies go for as much as $5 or $8. That happened because the homely old men would bid high to get the husbands up on their bids. When things like this happened, the auctioneer got involved too, and that raised the bidding. I know I was young, but I remember with what intensity the bidding raged. It seemed that the poor auctioneer could barely keep up with the changes in the bids. Half of the fun was to watch the young boys asking their mom and dad for more money to raise their bid. At those moments, there was a lot of work done to save face, both of the boys and of their parents. The whole crowd would get tickled when those kind of things happened. This was all done in a light-hearted tone, and it was great fun, even for a little boy like me. I feel bad for children today. They may never know or experience such a sight in their whole life. The excitement in the air was like an electric charge, building until laughter erupted, and then the charge started all over with the next pie. Every person there could feel it. Some of the older gentlemen, grandfathers perhaps, would get to laughing and carrying on with such vigor that the young husband started looking worried. But through it all, when we settled down for the pies, everyone was happy and laughter filled the building. I really do miss those kinds of events that brought the whole community together for an evening of fun, family, and don't forget the pies. Even for a little boy, this was so much fun to watch. The older men interacted with the younger men and the boys. Everyone got involved with comments and sidebars that brought on the bidding and the laughter. The auctioneer usually started early, and by 9:30 everyone was ready to retire to their own homes. Those events were altogether great fun for the whole family. I remember those few pie suppers I attended with such fondness that I wonder why such noble ideas went by the wayside. This was the last time I remember being at a pie supper. After that year, I don't remember any more of that kind of fundraisers at school. No more pie suppers, no more cake walks, nor any of the other gatherings from the school community with parents and kids together to bring a sense of belonging to an area. Those events were how the schools were able to do many of the things that gave a place you could go with the kids and to know in all this excitement you were doing good. The last pie supper brought Christmas to some children that might have no Christmas at all. I had stopped I'd stopped in a large it had stopped in a large school long before it stopped in the small schools. It was the end of a wonderful era. I think that World War II changed the world in ways that it could not recover from, and though some things improved, many other traditions died out and became forgotten. Pie suppers were held in early autumn to leave time to order the Christmas gifts have them and have time to wrap them. When my parents were children, the same kind of things were done to raise funds for Christmas events. In times they had far less to work with because money was so rare. The children of the 30s and 40s received bags with an apple and an orange and a few nuts and some Christmas candy. When they sat on Santa's lap, that was when they received. For many in those years, there were no Christmas gifts except what the schools provided. In those hard times, this was a grand gift for the children. Part or most of the proceedings from the pie suppers went for that kind of gifts for the kids. As I remember, I received a Christmas bag with a big, bright red apple and a beautiful, fragrant orange. The bag also had a collection of Brazil nuts, pecans, and walnuts, and almonds, and several other varieties I didn't even know. Included in the bag was a small bag that contained five kinds of old fashioned Christmas candy, a ribbon candy, the ones that had several colors in them, that folded back upon itself over and over. The little round candies that had Christmas designs embedded in their centers, sometimes flowers, all of which smelled wonderful as it escaped from the little bag. I have always associated those smells with Christmas. We didn't always get a gift from the school, but we always got the bag of goodies every year. This year we would have great gifts because the fundraiser was so successful, but the time of receiving the gift was still 2 months away. That year we got two gifts from the catalog, and both of mine would be Paladin sets. I don't remember what my sisters got that year. Some kids chose expensive gifts and they only got one, but most of us chose so we could have two gifts. We could spend up to $4.50, and that was what we all did. Some of the younger kids failed to understand the importance of relative value and were angry when they chose just one gift and reached their spending level. However, that was a short lived disappointment. After we made our choices for the upcoming Christmas season, we would soon forget what we had asked for, and the teachers directed our thoughts back to the studies at hand. They never mentioned the presents again until it was time to receive. The rest of that fall, we were on the three R's, and it wouldn't be long until Thanksgiving was there. We usually never thought of Christmas until after Thanksgiving, the last days of school before the 4 day Thanksgiving holiday. We didn't do so much in school. We let out on Wednesday about 1:30, and since we all walked home, we walked together until we came to the highway where we went our different ways. Thanksgiving is more of a family holiday to me than Christmas ever was. We see many more family members on Thanksgiving. We see people that we rarely visit and those that we visit often on Thanksgiving. As Thanksgiving Day started off, the visiting started with our own immediate family at the dinner table, telling each other what we were thankful for. We took time, just went around the table. There was always something to laugh at as we sat there and enjoyed our family. In the afternoon, we would go visit family that weren't so far, that weren't very far, even if we did not visit them often. We went further afield until it was later in the day. We were always home by evening to enjoy leftover turkey. Even back then, I personally thought that Thanksgiving Day was better than Christmas Day because there were so few expectations that came that could come to disappoint. We also gather around the tables to see and enjoy each other. On Christmas Day, we gather around a tree and enjoy the gifts we receive. When the gifts were opened, the great experience of the day was spent. On Christmas, we only gathered around the table after the festivities. After Thanksgiving was over, we only had 2.5 weeks until our selections from the catalogs were passed out at the school Christmas party. Those 2 weeks were the slowest 2 weeks of the entire year. All of the kids turned our thoughts to Christmas and to the Christmas party. Excitement was at a fever pitch, not just for the we kids, but also for those who had worked so hard to put on the pie supper and order the gifts and wrap them. They were also the ones who assembled the Christmas bags with all the goodies. It seemed like everyone was excited and cheerful as the day slowly passed. In our room, the teacher placed a different calendar page on the chalkboard that told how long until school Christmas party. I think the organizers of the pie supper and the Christmas party were happier about how well the things went than we were about the gifts we received. I remember the Christmas party that year better than most years. The party fell on a Tuesday night. We always went to church on Wednesday, and the last day of school before Christmas break was on that next Thursday. Our Christmas vacation began on Friday. The school party began with the same, with a small plate put on the kids, a small play put on by the kids. And although visitors clapped and cheered at the end as though we had done some splendid job, we kids all took a bow, and our teachers did too. After the play, we went back to sit with our parents, and the jolly old elf came walking in with an ear piercing ho, ho, ho. Most of the babies started crying, but the bigger kids lit up like a Christmas tree. Santa sat in a big chair and had three large bags to pull gifts from. He first handed out bags to the children that did not go to school, and when and then to us who had chosen gifts from the catalog. We all went home that night with our hearts content. Even or events like this stick with you a long time, all of your life. The next presentation will be Chapter 2, Magic in the Air. And the next post I do will be that. Sorry about the storm and having to split this chapter in half. God bless you. And if you get in a hurry to hear all these stories, you could go to either my webpage or my Facebook. And they have links to take you to Amazon where you can purchase these books. Talk to you next time. God bless and keep you until then. Well, where is that? There.